on. It's the Pete the Planner Show Hatted Edition. For some reason, I'm wearing a hat. Haven't figured it out myself. If it's like a Kendall Roy thing, I'm at the workplace in my work environment wearing a sombrero. Hello, Kristen. Hello, Dane. Welcome to a special Tuesday recording of the Pete the Planner Show.
Good day, Pete.
Hello.
Picture this. I got an hour to kill. So I go to the local outdoor mall because I'm like, I don't want to go home. I don't want to, whatever. I got to kill an hour and it's 4 degrees outside.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm walking around a store and a fetching outfit, if you will. Dane, what do men call outfits?
That's a great question. Comfortable?
Sure. I see this great looking, comfortable outfit on a mannequin.
Mm.
And Kristen, I don't know if you've ever been shopping before. Have you?
Once or twice.
When you see something on a mannequin, it is designed for you to go, I'm literally buying that everything on that mannequin. Have you ever done that?
I have not once purchased an entire mannequin's outfit.
Dame, have you ever purchased an entire mannequin outfit?
No.
Last night I did. Last night I looked at this mannequin and I was like, I need that on my carcass. So much so that I have a flight later this week. And I'm like, I'm wearing that outfit on my flight. And before I even touched it.
What are the chances that we could convince you to go back to the store with that outfit on and pose for a picture next to the mannequin?
Here's the problem. There are certain stores, and I'll tell you what store here in a second, that are buying athletic looking mannequins.
Mm.
They're like strong and physically fit. And I am not a physically fit looking person.
You've only been working out for what? Like a week and a couple days?
3 weeks. So eventually I'll get there. Kristen, do you want to guess where I bought an outfit off the mannequin yesterday?
My gut reaction, I was feeling like a Lululemon vibe, but there was another brand that you started to like more than them. And I don't remember the name, but that's my guess.
Dane?
I was totally going Lulu.
Dick's Sporting Goods. I bought an outfit off a mannequin at Dick's.
Huh.
Brands.
I don't even know. I just liked it.
Okay.
Anyway,
Athleisure?
What's that?
Athleisure?
Oh, it's athleisure. It's heavy. There's some joggers involved.
Oh, of course.
A pink hoodie.
On brand.
Yeah. All right. Hey, this is a financial show. This week on the show, we're back to our normal vibe around here. Last week we did the big relaunch with the IBJ Media Podcast Network. Easy for everyone to say. And now we're just back to doing our show here. IBJ Media Podcast Network, what people call the IBJ MPN. It's still part of what we're doing, but we're still back to being our normal selves. Kristen, how is your day specifically? 1 to 10, 10 being best day ever, 1 being, if you ask that again on the air, I'm going to quit. What is your day? And I know the answer to this already. I just want to hear it.
Like a 1.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Can we blame Dame?
I don't know that would be fair, but we can if you'd like.
Dame, what are you?
I was doing pretty well until you basically said we're going to put this on Dame's shoulders, even though nobody would believe you.
Here's some esoteric stuff for you. So Kristen and Dame, I've shared something with you internally with the team here in the last couple of days, a project I may or may not execute on.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. There are certain listeners that I actually went into LinkedIn or I had their email address and I sent it to them too to get their thoughts.
Really?
Oh.
One of which is our friend Andy.
Yeah.
She needs to check her LinkedIn because I sent her a link to something to read. Also sent it to Jameson, sent it to Big Rick Swink, Reverend Renfro. Like I'm sending this thing around, trying to get some input here. So if you want to be in on a special project, email me, ask Pete at PeteThePlanner.com, and I may or may not share it with you, and it may never see the light of day after you tear it apart. Dane, what are we talking about today?
We are going to dig into the nuance of trying to identify a good investment and why you might want to do that.
This is one of those things people are always like, oh, I wish I would have learned about that in high school or middle school. This is literally one of those things that people probably on some level should have learned a little bit about. Even just the basic difference between fundamental and technical analysis, while you're not going to get into it deeply in high school, just the idea of like real data, gut check, like it's things that we should discuss.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody does technical analysis at some level, whether they know it or not. Kristen is, oh man, maybe we should wait and save this for
for the air.
Save it for the
okay.
I told you my day's a 1 and I'm prepared to bring anyone to a 1. So
So you've never, Kristen, bought an outfit off a mannequin?
Not a whole outfit, no. Have I seen like a jacket or, oh, I liked those jeans, but not the whole thing.
See, I think looking at a mannequin is basically a form of technical analysis.
Oh, here we go. All right, let's not blow it. Let's get going here. For those that don't know, for the first time listeners on the IBJ Media Podcast Network, the IBJ MPN, here's how the show works. Kind of a weird one. It's a show about a show within a show. So this live stream and or podcast is actually a podcast that's recording a radio show. So 4 times in the midst of our talking, I'm going to start counting and we're going to just go out of body and do 9 minutes and change of something. And then there's breaks in between. There's a lot of inside jokes. You got to keep up. You're welcome to watch it live. If you don't, that's okay too. But go ahead and watch it live. Is that a good one?
It's highly encouraged to watch live.
I'm wearing a hat today for some unknown reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Okay. I feel like Kendall Roy from Succession, which unless you've watched Succession, you don't really know the reference. Okay. In 3, 2, 1. This week on the Pete the Planner Show, we answer your money questions. Here's how the show works. You email us, askpete@petetheplanner.com. That's askpete@petetheplanner.com. And here's what may happen. We may read your question on the air, like I'm about to in 35 seconds, and then answer your question throughout the episode. I use the plural, so I means there are 2 additional hosts, one of which is Kristen Elanius from Your Moneyline. Hello, Kristen.
Hello, Pete.
Damian Dunn, also from Your Moneyline. No relation to Kristen, nor I, even though we share the same surname.
Good day.
Good day. Here's the question. Hey, Pete, I keep hearing about fundamental analysis, but honestly, I just buy stocks based on what feels right and what people are hyped about online. Timeout.
I was going to ask for a timeout too.
Granted.
Who are they hanging out with where they keep hearing about fundamental analysis?
Not only was they on that, but like take that juxtaposed with people are hyped about particular stocks. I don't want to hang out with this person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, that's a little hard because this person emailed us for our help.
Oops.
But I am not interested in a social setting with you, good sir. And there's no, by the way, can we do a gender thing real quick? I might regret this. There's no way a woman is describing what people are hyped about. This is a dude. This is a young bro.
It does, you're right, because as I was reading through this, I was like, how many assumptions are we allowed to make about the emailer at this point? Because that was one of them that I made.
Kristen, do you have the email in front of you?
I do, yes.
Okay, I want you to read it as though you wrote it.
Yeah, good
Just
idea.
the first 2 sentences, and I want to feel if a woman can pull off talking about what people are hyped about.
Okay.
Okay, so just own it. Here we go. Kristen Elanius being the emailer. 3, 2, 1.
Hey, Pete, I keep hearing about fundamental analysis, but honestly, I just buy stocks based on what feels right and what people are hyped about online.
It wasn't as bad as I thought. Maybe oh man. Anyway,
The hype throws it off.
It is the word hype.
My portfolio is a mix of tech stocks, meme stocks, and a little Bitcoin for good luck. Timeout. It's definitely a dude. You might as well be like, and razors for shave my face. Am I actually investing or am I just gambling with extra steps? How do I know if a stock is a good long-term bet and not just a passing trend? Help me out before I YOLO my savings away. YOLO, of course, is you only live once. Wow. Kristen, as we help this young bro figure out whether he's investing or gambling, and does fundamental analysis play a role in tech stocks and meme stocks and crypto, where do you start to answer this thing?
Well, I mean, we could just cut straight to the chase, which is, am I investing or am I gambling with extra steps? And it's the latter, my man. You're gambling. That's what we're doing here.
Okay, Dame, this is interesting. We're going to explore that thought deeper, but I want to give you a chance to put it in the binary.
Yeah.
Investing or gambling?
I will say, I'll say gambling. If it's binary, it's gambling.
Okay, well then let's do this. Kristen, you're on DraftKings and you're betting the spread against the University of Kansas women's volleyball versus a game against Mizzou. That is called degenerate gambling. That's a 10 on the spectrum. 1 in terms of investing is fundamental analysis. What is this?
This is a strong 7.5.
Damn, she's right. What do you think?
I was going to say 6 to 7.
Okay, so at some level, we're looking at this and we're considering the question, and it goes beyond the gambling point, Kristen. It gets to why are you doing it this way, emailer? Why are you just looking at trends and vibes and hype to make investment decisions?
Yeah, that's exactly where my head goes. Is like, 1, how much time are we investing in like surfing Reddit for, what was that guy's name? They got
Thundernuts.
Yes.
Something like that. Yeah.
Wasn't it?
It was
Thunder Kitty.
Roaring
Kitty.
Yes.
Roaring Kitty.
I always miss that one.
So, how much time are we spending scouring Reddit looking for meme stocks? How much time are we spending doing these things? And to what end? Like, what do we actually stand to gain here? What have we gained in the past?
Yeah, I mean, buying individual stocks, okay. I think that's perfectly reasonable if you've got a good foundation set up. And I don't think you start with buying individual stocks unless, Pete, I know you in the past have tried to teach your kids, use an educational tool to try and make sure that they understand the ups and the downs and how markets work. But if you are a young bro, in this case, let's start with some foundational stuff. Let's build up some good savings habits. Let's make some good picks with broad allocation, mutual funds or ETFs. And then you can start diving into some of these other individual things that you want to maybe overweight, or you just like to chase, or maybe you get really good at technical analysis and you want to try and do some short-term stuff and lose money more times than you make it. That could be a really interesting hobby for yourself as well.
Do you guys remember when you first had like a alcoholic beverage? You drank it and it tasted awful.
Yeah.
And what you actually drank from a quality perspective was also in itself a bad version of what it was supposed to be.
Yes.
Yeah. Whether it's beer or spirits or wine or malt liquor, it was the worst version and it didn't taste good. However, in a weird positive spin here, it did lead you to enjoy good liquor someday. So it was a good thing that you went down that terrible devil's sweat path. Is that not the same here, where this person's weird path of like, I like meme stocks, and now this person has put themselves in the position to receive a stock picking 101 course on a syndicated radio show and Top 1% podcast, and this will set them on their path? Is that not the glory of all of this?
I don't know. It's about habits and expectation, I think, that this person is building at this point as well. I mean, if you are expecting, let's say they get lucky and they knock it out of the park with something, is that not setting a really bad expectation for future returns or future investments as well, causing you to potentially bail out of something and only look at things as short-term basis investments, which if you're saving for a long-term goal like retirement, you can get in a lot of trouble with that approach towards saving. So do they end up in the right spot? Maybe. I think it might be a little bit more difficult than you're giving it credit for, though.
I feel like every show we should give Kristen a free boomer that she can call one of us a boomer.
Yeah.
And I feel like if that were a thing on this show, which maybe it is now, I think she may have just thrown a boomer at you.
Go ahead.
I was actually thinking while Dane was saying that about, we said how many assumptions are we allowed to make about this person? What are the odds that this person has a lick of savings in a 401k?
I don't know.
You know what? I want to go back to read this here. Okay. Honestly, just buy stocks on what feels right and what people are hyped about online. My portfolio is a mix of tech stocks, meme stocks, and little Bitcoin for good luck. I think they've got some savings. I don't know. Again, we've seen thousands of these. I bet the person has at least some savings.
I bet they're way behind on retirement savings.
Real quick. Remember 2 weeks ago or so on the show, the guy that wanted to start living income off of his portfolio, he slid into my DMs.
Oh no.
And he's amazing, by the way. He's like really cool. And he like sent all these notes about answers to questions we asked. So maybe this person will do the same.
Yeah.
In the interim, here's the show today. When we come back, we're taking you to school, emailer. We are going to talk about fundamental analysis, beta, alpha, earnings per share, price to earnings ratio. We're going to explain all of the things that people use to make intelligent investing decisions. Then in the third segment, we're going to talk about technical analysis. Technical analysis, not so technical. That's next on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. I don't know. Do we like afternoon shows?
Jury's out. Let's get another segment under our belt.
Yeah. I bet the person has $5,000 to $7,000. Do you want to go back? Let me go back to the Instagram account that tells you that's who the person slid into. Do you remember the details from
the email a couple weeks ago?
Yeah. Here we go. Okay. Here we go. I'm Lucas from North Carolina, and I just paused the show. So he paused the show, and he's doing this in real time. Before I continue listening to you read and answer my question, I just want you to know that you have my permission now and in the future to use a Southern accent for me. Oh. Good day.
Yeah.
Love that.
Well, thank you, Governor. I also so enjoy the fact that I try to condense the question as much as possible so it wouldn't be information overload for a podcast, and in so doing, left you all with questions and assumptions. My bad. Well, that's just how the show works.
Yeah, you can't do it right. Pete's
No.
either going to give you grief because the question's too long, or Dame's going to give you grief because you didn't give him enough details.
That is so true, but it's with love.
Of course.
Just finished segment 2, and I'm basically live tweeting this to you as I'm listening. We have 30 years of term life, by the way, 27 years remaining. So it covers the time span of when we want to have kids. I feel like I was team he has life insurance. I feel like Cricket there was team he doesn't have life
I think I was team he doesn't because he didn't mention it. Yeah.
Yeah. The old guys disagreed with you.
He's early 30s, if I remember right.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
By the way, if you're listening to this podcast and you're new to the universe, it was 2 shows ago. Yeah. Should you take income off your investments or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. It wasn't the Valentine's Day show.
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Next. This is so great. I love Kristen's thoughts, though. No, we do not have a financial advisor or talk to a financial advisor or professional. And my wife doesn't have one more year mentality. We do talk finances a lot, but in terms of interest level, I'm an 8 out of 10 and she's a 4.5 out of 10. He's called his wife a 4.5 out of 10.
Not quite.
I don't think commenting on people's aesthetics is a really good idea.
I'm betting
Jamie,
Christmas to the show just like your wife.
That's true. Mrs. Planner listened last week.
No.
Okay.
I got home on Valentine's Day and I was like, how was your day? She's like, good. I listened to your show. And I was like, what? You didn't even tell me.
Shocking.
Oops.
She said Kristen's her favorite.
Well, yeah.
Well,
The ultimate desire is to be able to take different or lower stress jobs that we can be more active in our kids' lives as they grow up. I guess more towards Coast-Fi.
Okay.
Kristen may have to explain that. If we're making $100K a year combined in a few years and we need to be able to draw from a taxable account to supplement a vacation or unexpected expenses, I wanted to hear your thoughts on the best way to do that. God, you know what, Lucas, that's a different question. Completely different question. And the answer is, yeah, that's fine. right?
Poor Lucas.
Oh man, I'll take a look at the taxable brokerage allocation from a tax efficiency standpoint.
Mhm.
Good catch. Hope you can pass along the info to Dane and Kristen so they can see how they did against their assumptions. Thanks for questioning the answer in the air. And then he replied, he said, I love all of this. Thanks for being a great sport. And he said, absolutely. My wife will listen to the episode this week and I'll report back with any horrors she may have. Oh, Lord.
I think we crushed that.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Oh, hey, Tom makes it to the program today. Hello, Mr. Ricks. Good to be with you. Danza, of course, is here, former listener of the year. Every year we give listener awards. So if you're new to this whole thing, you can win. Well, we sent out coffee mugs, didn't we?
Yes.
Speaking of listener of the year,
Did
aren't
we
we?
do it? Did we do
due
it this
for
year?
that?
Yeah, we're going to do that next week.
Oh, okay. Great.
And we always do it on the last day of February.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Obviously.
Let's do a radio show in 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner show, Dane and Kristen. Oh, today we are drawing a distinction between fundamental analysis and technical analysis of stock picking. Now, here's the weird thing about both of those terms, fundamental and technical. Most people kind of think they know what those two words mean in relation to this conversation. I can assure you about 0.5% of people know what these two things mean. But by listening to this show and the size of this audience, more people are now going to know what we're talking about. So it's with that we're going to begin an exploration. Can we switch to NPR real quick? We're going to begin an exploration of fundamental analysis here on the Peter Dunn Show. Kristen, you're just shaking your head.
I don't care for that.
Okay. We're going to start with beta. Beta. We talked about this 3 or 4 weeks ago on the show. This one is, in my opinion, as easy to explain and understand as anything. Dane, do you want to take a swing or shall I? What shall we haven't discussed this. We don't do pre-planning of the show because I don't want to. What should Dane? Who wants this?
I will. So if you think about a individual stock, mutual fund, the market is going to move and do what it does. The beta of an individual holding or mutual fund is a representation of how much it moves in excess or less than what the general market does. So if the market is a 1, beta will likely be something you will see it represented as like a 1.2 or a 0.8 or something like that. It gives you an idea of how much volatility this investment will have in relation to a benchmark of the general market, S&P 500 usually.
Kristen, what would you add to that?
That I don't know if it was explicitly clear there in Dame's explanation that greater than 1 implies more volatility, less than 1 would imply less volatility, just in case that wasn't totally clear.
Sometimes the word volatility can be confusing, but a oversimplistic way to think about it is risk and magnitude of risk. And so again, the market is deemed to be 1. So if your beta is more than 1, it's riskier than the S&P 500. When we talk about the market, especially with some of these things, we are generally talking about the S&P 500 as the standard bearer there. If it is less than that, it is less volatile, is less risky than the S&P 500. And Dame, here's why this is applicable. Let's say you're an index investor, like a lot of people sort of start out. And you're like, okay, I want to test this out. Maybe the stock pick, well, I actually want it to be a little safer than the index. Or why don't I take a little bit more risk than the index? And this is initially a good measure to try to understand that. I think it's incredibly informative for the novice investor who are trying to stretch their legs a little bit.
Yeah, set some expectations of what you're looking for, maybe get you some insight on the future of that individual holding.
Kristen, one of the basics of investing is that you have to measure the amount of risk you're taking in order to determine how much reward you may be subject to, which then brings us to alpha.
Exactly.
Okay? Do you want to tackle alpha?
I sure can. So alpha, just as you suggested, is a measure of your risk-adjusted return. So are you, based on the amount of volatility that you're subject to, beta, that Damien just described, are you are you receiving the return that you should be based on that level of volatility, or are you underperforming based on that level of volatility?
There's an analogy I like here. Alpha is like a runner in a race. Okay. Alpha is like a runner in a race. If two runners have the same speed, beta, but one finishes ahead, that's alpha. Okay. So you're taking the same level of risk. You're exerting the same level of energy, which is the same amount of risk, the same amount of beta. The person that wins is the alpha. That's alpha. So if a stock has a beta of 1.2, we just explained that, meaning it's taking theoretically 20% more risk than the market, and the market went up 10%, you'd have to then get a 20% better return of 12%. And that's important to know. That helps you understand the alpha. And if it actually went up to 15%, it has an alpha of plus 3% because it went from plus 2 to plus 5, and that is the plus 3 of net beta.
If we're talking about alpha in representation or relation, I should say, to mutual funds, a lot of times people will equate alpha to manager performance. This is how good they are at picking the individual investments, bringing that allocation to fruition inside of that mutual fund. And if they can outperform the expectation, that's where the manager drives the results for the shareholders. That's the alpha.
Speaking of that, going to our emailer that kind of kicked this whole thing off, that would be something really interesting for them to look at, is what is the beta of, what did they call them? Tech stocks and meme stocks and Bitcoin.
That's right, bro.
What's your beta? It's going to be through the roof, I would venture to guess. And you might be outperforming the market, but when you take into consideration the amount of risk that you have to take to get the returns that you might be seeing, are you actually being properly compensated for that risk that you're taking?
Speaking of alpha, Rick Swink joins the live stream. Good afternoon, Rick. You guys, I don't want to jinx this here.
Oh, no.
This might be the most educational Pete the Planner show ever.
Well, we're a segment and a half into it.
I mean, like, my brain's, for the last 6 minutes, I've been pretty serious, and B, it's like a few weeks ago when I started teaching stuff about chuturo tuna. You know?
Ooh.
Yeah, that was great.
It's like I'm blacking out. All right, next up, earnings per share, EPS as they call it in the biz. Funny story for you here in a second. How much profit per share? So earnings per share tells you how much profit a company makes for each share of stock, and it is shown as a dollar amount, or sometimes a negative dollar amount, or sometimes a cents amount. The earnings were 32 cents per outstanding share. So if a company earns $10 million that has 5 million shares, then the earnings per share is $2 per share, Dave.
Yeah, exactly right. And sometimes, I mean, you're going to see these as negative numbers potentially as well. So you have to know what you're looking for. Sometimes a negative number may not be all that scary based on what the company is trying to do and the stage of that company. Other times, a declining earnings per share might be a really bad indicator.
Yeah. So the luckiest moment of my life happened involving earnings per share, and I'd like to share this story with you now.
Okay.
Please.
You guys know, back in the day, I think before I knew either of you, I used to go on Fox Business Network a lot, and I would do like Stuart Varney's show or whoever was on at the time. And one time they asked me to do a segment that I had no business doing. It was like stock picking, right? Like, I literally have no business doing that on national television. And for some reason, I can't even tell you, it's out of body experience. For some reason, I looked at Apple's earnings per share before I went on the air. I didn't look at any other earnings per share. And I didn't send it as a talking point. Halfway through the interview, I think it was Stuart Varney, said, "And what can you tell me about Apple's earnings per share?"
No.
And that more, I'm not kidding. Like, this literally was the best thing that had ever happened to me. Mm-hmm. And it's also the last time I went on Fox Business, because I was like, this is reckless.
Oh,
it was reckless. Like, it was insane. Anywho, let's hit a couple more. Price to earnings ratio. Is the stock expensive? So you've got the price of the share and you divide that by the earnings and it should tell you. So a stock costs $50 and its earnings per share is $5. That means investors expect big future growth when the earnings per share is 20 to 30 plus. If it's 5 to 10, it's low growth. And it's with that, we take a break. I'm Pete the Planner. This is Fundamentals, Pete the Planner Show. I ran out of time myself there.
Notice how we didn't do this.
Yeah.
God,
I would have been so. How dare you? Have you guys noticed in the social clips we post from this show that when one of you are talking, I'm like looking all around?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to stop that.
Oh.
I listen better when I can just stare into space, which doesn't help a marriage. Or social media clips for the show.
That's fair.
Dane will be making some salient point, and I'm like,
yeah.
Literally all the time.
It's wild. We have dividend yield. Oh, sorry, Mo. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that's why someone should watch the show, because you miss out on those types of things when you only listen.
I know. Like that. I was just checking a text.
He was not paying any attention to what I just said. If you're listening to the podcast, he was checking his phone.
Sorry. I'm not waiting for anything. I'm waiting for something more interesting than what you just said.
Love that for me.
Do you guys want to hit the other ones? Like, we could hit them quick. There's like 1, 2, 3. Let's go deep. Yeah, we've got a few more.
I also want to debate Dame about technical analysis.
Well, that's coming.
Okay. I'm fired up. I'm ready.
Now I'm going to have to listen to that too.
But you don't worry. You passively listen. You'll be off checking emails or something. I
might just do
for those of you listening, Pete just excluded himself from the conversation. He's just
entirely
put us in there. Will he come back? I don't know.
We don't know.
All right. I just took myself off the stage. That's empowering. That was great.
Just step away.
Yeah.
It's your show.
This hat I'm wearing, doesn't it look like I was just in Turkey to have hair implants and I'm just covering the evidence?
It's giving Joe Goldberg.
I don't know who Joe Goldberg is.
Look it up after the show.
Wait, is he like an influencer?
No.
Okay. Kristen, this isn't cool.
I'm sorry.
You know he's going to look it up now. You couldn't say just look it up after the show. It's going to
from what's that show? You. That's so funny. All right, I'm going to have to show the people. Jamie, pull it up. How about that? All right, there's Joe Goldberg.
But when he's like stalking women, he always just wears this baseball cap and somehow that like makes him invisible. So that's what.
Wait, I didn't think you would take it to, you remind me of a woman stalker.
I didn't say that.
No, you just did.
I said the hat is giving Joe Goldberg. Totally different.
I sent Brian Pinkins a special project this morning too to see his thoughts. It's still a special secret project, but whatever. Dame, can you send me how to check the email password or whatever? I think you have it and I don't.
Yeah, I've got it somewhere. I'll send it back to you. Or I can just forward you the emails when they come in.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't want any email. Are we ready for this?
I suppose.
In 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner show, talking fundamental and technical analysis. You might learn something today. So part of the way people consume the show is that they listen on the radio on the weekends, because we play on several networks on the weekends. And Dame, like right now, I would say someone's going to buy mulch, but they're going to buy like water softener salt or salt for their driveway, any salination needs they might have. And they're learning about stocks. And I think that's good for them.
Yeah, I don't see any possible way somebody could get out of their car at this point. They've got to finish the episode.
Especially when the next fundamental analysis metric is dividend yield. How much money do you get back? Dame, take us down the exciting path of dividend yield.
Dividend yield's basically telling you how much money the company is giving you back. So let's just keep the numbers as simple as possible. If you've got a $100 stock and they pay out $5 in dividends over the course of the year, be quarterly, it's a 5% dividend. That's great. Now, what I will also say is the higher that dividend goes, chances are the more stable or less growthy. That's the word now. Less growthy. That
Is
stock
it?
is going to be. Yes, it is. Look it up. It's a CFP word, Pete.
I don't have one of those.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if no dividends, you're probably looking for growth in that stock. You're trying to get some accumulation. That's not the right word, but it's the one that came to mind at that point. And then if you're looking for dividends, don't expect a lot of growth on an annual basis.
Kristen, did it just occur to you that Dame's just making a lot of this stuff up?
I don't think so. I feel like the analogy here, you guys, that I always was taught was like dividend yield is like a rent check. You own the property and then you own the underlying asset. And then every month your tenant is paying you the rent. You've not heard that analogy was never explained to you when you were learning about investments?
No.
Because I don't feel like it tracks. That's why I was curious.
Yeah, I don't. It sort of started to fall apart pretty quick in my head of why it doesn't work.
And I feel like it's a really popular explanation, and I don't feel like it's the best one, to be honest.
Yeah, Dame, a lot of like small bank stocks pay a dividend. Like I have family members that own a lot of shares of local banks, and the price doesn't fluctuate a lot, like the share price, but the dividend's consistent. And so in Dame's parlance, they're not growthy.
Yeah.
They are providing income. So in the investment world outside of Dame, there's growth in incomes, and so this is income. Whereas other times, if you don't have a dividend and the price is fluctuating and more importantly going up, that is a more growth or growthy oriented stock. Market capitalization. How big is a company? Why should anyone care, Chris, about the size of a company? What do we have to gain here?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing when you're looking at size of a company is not always, but oftentimes that can tell us about a company's volatility. Usually when a company is small cap, meaning what, I think 2 billion or less, that company might be subject to a little bit more volatility versus a large cap company, which I think is 10 billion or more. We don't tend to see as big of fluctuations as companies become more established, as they have more outstanding shares, their value is more.
A good example of this, probably too close to home, and I'm not sure how much I can say about this, but even your money line, which we all work for, is a privately held company. It's got a number of investors. And because we're so small, an appeal to that is our significant growth rate, right? Whereas if we're Amazon, we can't grow as fast because it's harder to move that ship, but we grow significantly faster than the Amazons of the world. Dane, let's talk about equity. Return on equity. We've got two more metrics before we go to technical analysis. Debt to equity ratio. How much debt does the company have? Why is this important?
Really important to know if your company is using that debt in a meaningful, manageable way, or if it's getting out of control. Do they have a plan to take care of it in either of those two instances? So if your debt is creeping up more and more and more, that might be a big red flag that you need to pay attention to.
All right. Finally, Kristen, we're going to end with you. Debt to equity ratio. Oh, no, we just did that. Sorry. No, that's it. We did it. We're done.
Did it.
Hey.
Look at me paying attention. All right. Let's get into technical analysis then, because the emailer asked about fundamental analysis. And what we believe is this person may be doing a bad version of technical analysis. Kristen, what is technical analysis, which is in some degrees the opposite of fundamental analysis?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to kind of summarize this is technical analysis is generally looking at trends, charts, and the like to try and find anomalies or to try and find opportunities to outperform the market, versus these fundamental analysis metrics that we just looked at. They are more rooted in science.
Wait, so we're going art and science here? Is that what we're doing? Dame, is technical analysis an art And fundamental analysis is a science?
I have a really hard time disagreeing with what she's saying. However, I think if you are a reasonable technical analysis practitioner, it can be okay for you. Fundamental analysis is built for the long term. If you are trying to hit a long-term goal, you're going to be digging into these numbers, the stuff that we just talked about, to make sure something is a good, sound, reasonable buy. Technical analysis is going to do exactly what Kristen said. You're going to look for trends, whether that's market trends, whether that's societal trends, whether that's whatever you want to apply to it. Maybe it's just a news cycle thing. Maybe it's a seasonality thing. If you can identify patterns with technical analysis, it can pay off in your own to your own benefit. The problem is sometimes as humans, we tend to see patterns where there aren't any.
I'm going to get out over my skis on the air.
Oh, yay.
It's voodoo, man. It's like, oh, it's a candlestick. No, it's a reverse candlestick hammer banger. Like there's all these that sound like X Games snowboarding moves. Yeah. Like, oh, that's a pure candlestick play for Thor's hammer. Like I'm not making this up. These are things.
Yeah.
And they're like, and so I'm obviously going to sell or I'm going to buy 30 options on the January calls. It's like, what? It's voodoo to me. And the sad part about this is so often when people sell you systems on how to trade stocks, it's based on this voodoo. No one's selling you a system on fundamental analysis. It's all this garbage. Oh man, I'm going to probably regret that.
For someone who's listening to this, if they're not sure how they feel about the email that was written, fundamental analysis, technical analysis, as your certified financial planner, practitioner, coach here, I would just encourage you to look up what's called the efficient market hypothesis, and then you can make your own conclusions. Read about it, read about the science behind it, the people who subscribe to it, how they've performed over time, and then you can make your own decision. It's not our job to tell you which to subscribe to or which to believe in. I have my opinions, but based on my knowledge of the efficient market hypothesis.
I mean, efficient market hypothesis is great. I tend to subscribe to it. However, there are such things as trends that you're following. And maybe something's on a huge run. 15 years ago, if you looked at Facebook and you didn't know a lick about the fundamental analysis, you could have done really well just by looking at the trends and making that investment off the technical side. So if you're looking for a short-term investment, technical can potentially work, but you have to be very careful with it.
I feel like Kristen just hit the squad with a do your research. And Dane just hit us with red at night, sailor's delight, red in the morning, sailor's warning.
Sure.
I don't know what any of that means. I'm sorry. Okay, let's do more of the show. Coming up after the break on a very special Pete the Planner show, the biggest waste of money of the week. User submitted last night. Got this email last night. Stayed up late. It was like 10 o'clock. I don't know why I was alive at that point. By alive, I mean awake. So that's next, including the news brought to you by the bald man. Not this bald man, that bald man. All of that and more. Probably no more. Just those two things on the Pete the Planner show next. Got caught, hung out to dry. People are like walking around outside my office here. I can see through the frosted glass. It's like, I don't know if there's like a bomb scare at our building, but I just see so many people going by. I don't know what's going on.
On
Free
a
donuts.
Tuesday?
Yeah, I don't. Oh, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are slammed around.
I know Wednesdays are. I didn't know that Tuesdays were.
Tuesday's a big day here in our hybrid work environment. By hybrid, it means I'm standing here literally 9 days a week.
Right.
With the door open, seeing who comes in. Oh, it's good to see you. 10:15? Sweet. I'm just kidding.
One of the best places to work in this state.
Oh, yes.
Everybody.
Oh, congrats, by the way, to
Same.
you guys. I don't know.
Same.
You?
I have nothing to do with anything. Third year in a row, best places to work in Indiana. Your money line.
That's us.
That's fun.
CEO notwithstanding.
Hats off to you. That's why I wore my hat today. So,
Hey.
my hat, this is a flannel hat.
Ah, is your head warm?
It is now. I look a little moist up top. a little damp on the forehead.
Gentlemen,
Where?
I do know gentlemen. You know gentlemen? Yeah,
the
I do.
our opinions that we just gave on fundamental and technical analysis actually probably open us up to the most scathing emails that we ever get, because it's people who do buy into technical analysis or who don't, who probably have the strongest opinions. So I'm glad I don't have access to the email inbox this week.
Oh, I have access to the forward button though.
Don't, I'll cry.
Years ago, I had a man that would help me with my investments, personal investments, and he was a technical analysis fella. And one day, when reviewing returns for the previous year, and our alpha was nowhere to be seen after the market was unbelievable, I said, "Hey, man, I'm just looking to keep pace with the market here." He said, "Man, I'll tell you, the market was just wrong this year." And I remember thinking, that's the dumbest thing anyone's ever said. The market was just wrong this year. It got it wrong. And I was like, it didn't even make sense.
It was wrong.
And needless to say, I used to work with this individual. Let's continue the show. I have to do some things here to get ready because this is a TV extravaganza. If you don't watch the podcast, I encourage you to, because what will happen is we make visual references. Kristen and Dane talk. I look off the screen. It's really visually appealing. So that's what we're doing. Okay. Oh, here we go. All right. In 3, 2, 1. This week's biggest waste of money of the week right here on the Pete the Planner show is the NVIDIA H100 AI GPU purse. Who says tech fans can't be fashionable? If you're on the hunt for a purse that both shows off your enthusiasm for things digital and you want to spend big bucks, then boy, do I have a deal for you. A company has revealed a new line of purses and or handbags. Time out.
Granted.
Kristen, you and I are the only people in this program that carry purses. What do you call yours? A purse, a handbag, a satchel? What are you carrying?
I call it a purse.
I carry mine's, I just call it a bag. I keep it sort of ambiguous.
That's fair.
I did have my wife's mother compliment my wife on my bag, saying, "I love your new purse," and it was in fact my bag. So that was unsettling. A company has revealed a new line of purses that use an NVIDIA H100 AI GPU as part of the design, and it's selling for a pretty penny. Kristen, you see it on screen there. Kristen, what do you believe this costs?
Can I make a confession?
Like R. Kelly?
No.
Oh, that's a bad reference. Go ahead.
I don't understand what it is.
It's a
what is
chip?
the chip? What does that mean?
It's a video card that it looks like they've glued onto a plastic box and then thrown a dollar store chain on it.
But it's not functional? That's what I'm confused. What is
it? It is not functional.
No.
Oh, lovely. Okay. The queen of horrible guesses. If you're new to the show, this is $800.
Dame, do you remember that one time I was a man and changed the CPU on my refrigerator and I had that board? I might actually still have it here in the studio. Hold on a second.
Oh my word.
If I do, it's like, did I get rid of it? Oh, I got rid of it. Anyway, that's what this looks like.
Yeah.
That's what this looks like.
Two of the examples even have fans on them.
Yeah. I like that I said, remember that one time I was a man and you were like, oh yeah, I remember that one time.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I remember that.
That one time he
too many things to pull from.
Dame, how much does this cost?
I mean, if this is more than 75, if it's more than $75, you should be taken to jail.
$65,536.
So you left out some. There's got to be jewels or something in there. There's no way that's $65,000.
It's made up from some components for a real NVIDIA H100 GPU. Unfortunately, while this company was quick to jump on the product listing and inform me that I could split up my awful financial, it seems only applies to what's in the news this week?
Dumb. All right. Landlords are turning to a hardball tactic to go after their tenants in rent disputes, tanking their credit scores. Ooh. When David Murray moved out of his St. Louis apartments, sorry, David, for name checking you, apartment 2 months early, he thought he had settled up by giving notice. So when he received a bill for $4,500 2 months for 2 months rent plus penalties, he assumed there was a mistake. Then his credit score fell from a near perfect 815 to 630. The landlord had hired a debt collector to go after the alleged arrears, and the collection agency didn't harass or sue him. It filed a claim with the credit bureaus. Quote, I asked them to please take me to small claims court, and they never contacted me, he said. Landlords say targeting credit scores with the help of debt collectors has proven more efficient than endless phone calls or drawn-out legal battles. Rental debt is now one of the most common topics of complaints related to debt collection, according to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau data.
All right. You want joke A or joke B, Kristen?
B.
B. Good thing we've got the CFPB to have our back.
Womp womp.
Dave, you want joke A?
Yes.
A 6:30. That's 90 minutes after I like to eat dinner.
Oh my.
We get what's like a joke spin the wheel.
Yeah.
Folks, I didn't write these beforehand. They just come to me. What else is in the news?
What does the leader of a country with over 46 million people and the host of the Talk Tua podcast have in common?
Oh,
They're
Lord.
in jail.
After this weekend,
A meme coin.
After this weekend, both Argentina President Javier Milei and internet celebrity Haley Welch will be forever associated with meme coins and rug pulls. The libertarian Milei promoted Libra in a post on X late Friday evening, saying, quote, this is a private project dedicated to encouraging the growth of the Argentine economy. Hours later, after it had risen to a market cap of $4.4 billion, it crashed in value by more than 95%. Milei then deleted his post and said he was not familiar with the details of the project.
If I may, the opposite of a rug pull is, I don't know, it's something. It is a thing, but it's where the rug pulls where you just take all the money, or you manipulate the market. There's two examples going on right now where people were sort of set up to pull the rug and they did not. Okay. One was the Trump coin, which a lot of people were like, this is going to be a rug pull of some sort. So far, no rug pull. I don't know why we're praising people for not pulling the rug, but that is an example. Another one, Dame, one of your and I's favorite people. I say that in a weird way. Have you seen this story?
No.
Pizza reviewer. Sports blogger aficionado.
Mr. Portnoy?
Mr. Portnoy has a meme coin that is like for the people. And whatever it is, the opposite of rug pulling, like it's like he was set up to pull the rug, but he didn't because it was more of like a benevolent thing. So shout out to whatever that story is that I have no details on. Boy, this is not like me.
I'll have our research department get on that for next week's news.
What else is in this week's news?
There's one thing that Nissan leadership knows. It's the importance of a good exit strategy. Just ask Carlos Ghosn. Do you know that story, Pete?
Is this where President Trump said Nissan instead of Nippon Steel at a press conference?
No. Carlos,
those are very different.
Carlos Ghosn, former CEO of Nissan, had to flee a country by being packed in a box with holes in it by a former Army Green Beret to escape prosecution, and they had to smuggle him out of a country.
Kristen, you get two options of how to be smuggled out of a country. I'm going to give you these two options. One, in a box with holes carried by your closest friends.
Okay.
But you can breathe. Number two is that there is like a beached whale carcass that's going to be studied abroad, and they fill you into the carcass and with a breathing tube. What do you choose?
The former.
Okay. Just checking.
That's disgusting.
What? It's not on me.
Back to the news. Nissan and Honda are walking away from a $60 billion merger that would have made them the world's third largest automaker. The deal was initially framed as a, quote, merger of equals until Honda realized it was way out of Nissan's league. Its $51.9 billion market cap, hey, market cap, we're back to talking about the first or second segment, is literally 5 times the size of Nissan's. As the deal started looking more like an acquisition that would have made Nissan a subsidiary of Honda, things started unraveling faster than my willpower in front of a box of free donuts. Honda shares jumped on the news of the split, and with investors breathing a collective sigh of relief, the Tokyo Stock Exchange had to temporarily halt trading on Nissan shares after the nosedive sent share prices spiraling.
Dame, you're a car guy. You are our resident car guy and a legit car guy.
Yeah.
Who makes a better car, Honda or Nissan?
Honda every day of the week.
Obviously.
Gee, many Christmas, Kristen. You're jumping in here?
I feel like that was, first of all, that was in the story, basically. And second of all,
So like Honda / Acura, Nissan / Infinity.
Yes.
You're saying an Acura is better than an Infinity.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, look, who am I to doubt? I'm just listening.
Infinity and Nissan have had a very spotty track record with some reliability issues over the last decade or so.
Whatever, dude. I change my oil every year, man. I don't know.
Wonderful for your cars and future value.
Every year.
Yeah.
Okay. You have a 10-second story?
No.
Okay. All right. So this was the second episode of our show that's been on the IBJPN, something like that. Anyway, well, this is fun. You can always email us your questions. Ask Pete at PeteThePlanner.com. What are we doing next week? Oh, here's what we're doing next week. Question is this. I saw it. What time in American history, what period in American history did people have the most wealth, relatively speaking? Like, what are people doing the best? We'll talk about that next week. It's called the Golden Age of Wealth. Next week on the Pete the Planner Show, send you good vibes, or all this in the budget. I'm Pete the Planner, who just blew by this segment by 5 seconds. Son of a...
Sorry, John's not going to get some royalties for his 7 seconds of music.
Johnny Cougar. Mellencamp. You guys, I think we talked about this off the air, and I said, should we talk about this on the air? I don't know if I got an answer, so let's talk about it on the air.
Okay.
Kristen, we all right? So it was like with the CFPB going away to some degree, a large degree. And then we've got scrutiny, appropriate and arguably inappropriate, but definitely some appropriate, of the Social Security retirement system. Mm-hmm. Okay. Again, that's all in the eye of whoever's reading the news. I think there are two protective steps that people should take. And I want to play a little game of properly reacting or overreacting. Okay. Properly reacting or overreacting, or, for extra $100, you can hit me with underreacting. Okay. So I will give the thing. You tell me if I'm underreacting properly or overreacting. In relation to the CFPB losing a lot of power, I'm telling everyone right now, especially because of that, to freeze their credit. Freeze their credit. Kristen, under properly or overreacting, tying those two things together.
Do I get a follow-up or do I just have
Yeah, go ahead. Your show.
I would say over, only because in a perfect world, that was so important anyway. Like managing, knowing, taking control of your credit history, knowing what that looks like is so important. But I know people aren't doing that. So I totally understand where you're coming from in saying this is really important, because people weren't doing what I would argue they should have been doing to begin with. Does that make sense?
It's fair. I would add a step to this in retrospect, was not only freeze your credit, but then consistently review your credit report, because it's some of those phantom medical debts that are going to be so problematic. Dame?
I would say overreacting as well.
Okay.
These freezing your credit and checking your credit report should be Molly's table stakes.
Fair. Okay. Second one. I'll start with Dame. Dame, because of whatever is happening with Social Security right now, which we both kind of don't know, but we understand something is happening. And you would think a lot of us are excited that if there is fraud, it's potentially being sniffed out. Should people go into their Social Security account on the website? What am I, 94 years old?
Maybe.
On the www, should they screenshot their benefit amount and screenshot their data for prosperity's sake?
It's really, I've changed a lot on this over the last year, let's say, based on how we've seen some of these other programs that we've been working with at Your Money Line have shaken out. Before I would have said overreacting. I don't think it's overreacting. I maybe even make that into a regular part of your annual financial review, or however you want to do it, is take screenshots of benefits and income records as you've got as well. So I think that is a appropriate reaction.
Wow. You know what, Dame, you have changed. Chris?
I would agree with that. I think that you should always have your own records. You should not rely on whoever the respective overseer within our government is for any program like that. We tell people that about PSLF all the time. Keep your own records, because you just never know what might happen. And so I would say that's very appropriate.
All right. That's this week's show. But before we go, I want to polarize the audience. Dame, do people's Social Security benefits go down from here?
Because of this specifically?
No, just do they go down?
How?
This is so unfair. I love it.
It's entirely.
It's so unfair.
No.
Liar. Kristen, what do you think?
One word comes to mind, and
Can you say it on the air?
I can, but I'm scared, which is hopefully.
Oh, Lord.
Because we can't afford it. We can't afford it. The system's going to go bankrupt.
We get all the fraud taken care of. We certainly can't afford it.
What just
How
happened
much fraud
here?
is there?
God, I started this.
A ton.
You did.
I'm like
There
Billy
are
Joel.
bullets.
I did start the fire.
No.
Okay. That's all we got. Thanks for listening to this. Stay getting money.